I met Old Man Mitch in the middle of a field. Yeah, a field. I was scouting a promising location when I came across him. Stuck in the mud, his old Chevy Blazer hopelessly bogged down in the deep ruts. There was no way I could just drive past without helping. I was raised the old school way, to respect my elders and always lend a hand when someone's in trouble. Some of you might scoff. Some might say, why bother? Time is money. Getting dirty for a stranger? Not worth it. But I'm not you. So I unhitched my trailer, trudged through the mud to check the road, exchanged a few words with the old man, and went back to my trusty Land Cruiser. My rig pulled his Chevy out with ease. The old man, Mitch, showered me with thanks, even tried to pay me, but I waved him off. That's not why I helped. He told me he had just come from an old cemetery where his parents and grandparents were buried. When I mentioned that I made my living scavenging scrap metal, something in his expression changed. That's when he told me about the abandoned homestead, his childhood home. And what he said chilled me to the bone. Mitch's story was both fascinating and terrifying. And more importantly, he said there was a lot of metal there, but no one dared to go. And the reason why? During World War II, a man named Sergei Lukyanov fought bravely, but was severely wounded. After months in a hospital, he returned home to the homestead, but he was not the same man. His leg was saved, but he was left with a limp. His arm, however, was beyond repair. Once a strong, capable man, Sergei now carried a deep anger, an explosive temper that only got worse with time. No one knew how his wife, Nadia, put up with him. He drank heavily, turning into a violent, reckless brute. He beat his wife, his daughters, even his neighbors. No one could control him. Then, in 1948, he took his self-destruction to the extreme. One night, completely drunk, he accidentally set fire to the village church, the same one he had been helping to rebuild after the war. Whether it was from a dropped cigarette or sheer negligence, no one knew for sure. The fire raged through the old wooden structure, and Sergei burned alive inside. After the fire, Father Nicholas, the village priest, led a service, urging the people to forgive Sergei and pray for his lost soul. But no one did. The villagers felt no sorrow for him, only relief. Sergei had made their lives hell, and now, finally, he was gone. Father Nicholas warned them, evil does not vanish without consequence. Unforgiven darkness only breeds greater darkness. And his words proved true. A week after the fire, the nightmare began. It started with his house, the same house where he had lived with his wife and 2 daughters. On the white plastered wall of the old brick stove, a portrait appeared. Sergei's face burned into the surface, twisted with rage. Nadia, his widow, was horrified. She tried to paint over it. The next morning, the face reappeared. By midday, the entire village had heard. People came to see for themselves, crossing themselves in fear, whispering prayers. That evening, she covered it up again. The next morning, it was back. Men from the village took axes to the stove, breaking away the plaster and sealing it with fresh clay. But the face came back, burned into the new layer. Nadia was terrified. She refused to stay in the house overnight and took her daughters to a neighbor's home. But that's when things got worse. The next morning, the same cursed portrait appeared on the neighbor's stove. At first, the villagers thought it was some kind of trick, but then it began spreading. Every home Nadia tried to sleep in, the face appeared there the next morning. People stopped letting her in, afraid they too would be marked by the ghost of Sergei. But fate was cruel. Anyone who refused her shelter woke up to find the face burned into their own walls. People tried to scrub it away, but the image wouldn't budge. Some covered it with cloth, only to wake up and find the face burned through the fabric. It was terrifying. It was beyond reason. Father Nicholas blessed the homes. Nothing changed. The villagers tore down their stoves and rebuilt them. Still, the face returned. A special commission came to investigate. They found nothing. Scientists arrived with equipment, no explanation. Women refused to enter their own homes without their husbands. Children became sickly, wasting away. Livestock died overnight. The villagers became desperate. They couldn't live like this. The decision was made. They would abandon the homestead. No one argued. They left behind fully built houses, furniture, tools, everything. They fled to a nearby village, leaving their homes to rot and decay. And that's when the real nightmare began. The abandoned homestead became a place of fear and superstition. Travelers reported strange lights glowing over the ruins at night, a fiery red glow flickering in the distance. Some believed it was Sergei's vengeful spirit, furious at being abandoned, unable to find peace. No one dared set foot there. I listened to the old man's story with fascination and a growing sense of dread. Then I asked for directions. Mitch looked at me like I was insane, but he told me anyway. I thanked him, hitched my empty trailer back onto my Land Cruiser, and set off through the muddy road. I was going to see it for myself,